Hi, I'm Mr. Jeff. I'm a staff member at Lakewood Public Library, and today I have some fractured fairy tale stories to share with you. Before we read our first story, I would like to thank Penguin Random House for giving us permission to read both of our stories today. All right, so the first fractured fairy tale we're going to read today is called Prince Cinders by Babette Cole. This is a fractured fairy tale based on Cinderella. Prince Cinders was not much of a prince. He was small, spotty, scruffy, and skinny. He had 3 big, hairy brothers who were always teasing him about his looks. They spent their time going to the palace disco with princess girlfriends, and they made poor Prince Cinders stay behind and clean up after them. When his work was done, he would sit by the fire and wish he was big and hairy like his brothers. One Saturday night, when he was washing the socks, a dirty fairy fell down the chimney. "All your wishes shall be granted," cried the fairy. "Ziz, ziz, boom, tick-tack-ta. This empty can shall be a car. Biff, bang, bong, bo, bo, bo. To the disco you shall go." "That can't be right," said the fairy. "Toe of rat and eye of newt, your rags will turn into a suit." "Drat," thought the fairy, "I didn't mean a swimsuit. Your greatest wish I'll grant to you. You shall be big and hairy too." Prince Cinders got big and hairy, all right. "Rats," said the fairy. "Wrong again, but I'm sure it all wears off at midnight." Prince Cinders didn't know he was a big, hairy monkey, because that's the kind of spell it was. He thought that he looked pretty good. So off he went to the disco. The car was too small to drive, but he made the best of it. But when he arrived at the Rock and Roll Bash, he was too big to fit through the door. He decided to take the bus home. A pretty princess was waiting at the stop. "When's the next bus?" he grunted. Luckily, midnight struck, and Prince Cinders changed back into himself. The princess thought he had saved her by frightening away the big hairy monkey. "Wait!" she shouted, but Prince Cinders was too shy. He even lost his trousers in the rush. The princess was none other than the rich and beautiful Princess Lovelypenny. She put out a proclamation to find the owner of the trousers. The Princess Lovelypenny decrees that she will marry whoever fits the trousers lost by the prince who saved her from being eaten by the big hairy monkey. Fitting sessions begin today. Signed, P.L. Every prince for miles around tried to force the trousers on, but the trousers refused to fit any of them. Of course, Prince Cinders' brothers all fought to get into the trousers at once. "Let him try," commanded the princess, pointing at Cinders. "They won't fit that little squirt," sneered his brothers. But they did. Princess Lovelypenny proposed immediately. So, Prince Cinders married Princess Lovelypenny and lived in luxury happily ever after. And Princess Lovelypenny had a word with the fairy about his big, hairy brothers, whom she turned into house fairies. And they flitted around the palace doing the housework forever and ever. The end. All right, how about, before we do our next story, let's do a couple little activities. For the first thing we're going to do is a little sign language. So today, we're going to learn the sign for magic, because there's lots of magic in fairy tales, right? All right, so to do the sign for magic, you start with both your hands like this, down towards the bottom of your stomach. And you want your fingers all fanned out like this. Then you're going to raise your hands and make two fists like this and bring them up to the top of your shoulders like this. Then you're going to make a little burst like this, sort of like a burst of magic. Start from here, raise it up to your shoulders, and burst of magic like that. Start here, up, and magic. So that's how you say magic in sign language. All right, let's do a little movement game as well. This is called Magic Finger. So let's get our magic fingers ready like this. Magic finger in the air. Magic finger in my hair. Magic finger on my toes. Magic finger on my nose. Magic finger on my hips. Magic finger on my lips. All right, good job. So let's do our last story for today. So we're going to read a book called Falling for Rapunzel. This is by Leah Wilcox, illustrated by Lydia Monks. Falling for Rapunzel. Once upon a bad hair day, a prince rode up Rapunzel's way. From up above he heard her whine, upset her hair had lost its shine. He thought her crying was a plea, and sallied forth to set her free. Alas, she was too far away to quite make out what he would say. Rapunzel, Rapunzel, throw down your hair. She thought he said your underwear. No, Rapunzel, your curly locks. Rapunzel threw down dirty socks. Please, love, just your silky tresses. She thought he asked for silky dresses. In lace and frills up to his head, the prince's cheeks were blushing red. Rapunzel, do you have a rope? Rapunzel dropped a cantaloupe. It burst in pieces on his head. Oh, bad catch, Rapunzel said. Perhaps, he sighed, this is a test. And bound by love, he did not rest. Okay, Rapunzel, how about twine? She heaved out her blue ribbon swine. By now, the prince was feeling hammered, not to mention less enamored. He growled up, do you have a ladder? Rapunzel tossed out pancake batter. It covered him from head to toe. She yelled, it's better cooked, you know. At this the poor prince had a cry, then cupped his hands for one last try. Let down your braid. Confused, Rapunzel pushed out her maid. The maid fell squarely on the prince, quite pleased with the coincidence. She nimbly jumped off his lap and soon revived the flattened chap. Then, smiling, said, "For what it's worth, you'll find I'm really down to earth." His young heart thrilled, he gave a hoot. For what was more, the maid was cute. She set the prince upon his steed, then leapt behind with graceful speed. And leaning close so he could hear, she whispered something in his ear. "I fell for you when we first met." He nodded. "How could I forget?" Rapunzel watched them ride from sight. I'm glad I finally heard him right. I hope if they come back for more, they'll think to knock on my back door. And that's the end. All right, thank you for joining me today. Hope to see you at the library very soon.